Shabana Mahmood, you are at the meeting which decided on the party's programme last Thursday. Is it all done and dusted now, agreed?
Yes, the manifesto is agreed.
I was told that not everybody did agree, that there was no formal vote and that some, including your biggest union backer, Unite, said they couldn't support some of the policies in the manifesto. Is that true?
Well, there was a huge amount of positivity in the room. It was a shorter Clause 5 meeting than others that I have been to before previous general elections. And actually, at the end of the meeting, we endorsed the manifesto by acclaim, which is unusual for the Labour Party. So well, it was a very positive mood in the meeting. Of course, one or two of our trade union colleagues had particular policies that they wanted to push further, but, you know, the mood in the room was very much that, you know, we were going to remain fiscally credible, make sure everything was fully funded, fully costed, and that's what we did.
Oh, that's very interesting, because Labour Party is usually pretty much a stickler for formalities, and you actually have to vote. What you're telling me is that there wasn't a vote. Is that because some people said they couldn't support some of the policies, so this acclamation thing is a way of just getting it by? What were the things that were sticking points?
Well, honestly, it was by acclamation at the end, by the will of the room. There was a huge amount of positivity. People could see that this is a programme of change. Hopefully, when it's unveiled, everybody in the country will be able to see that as well. Look, Unite have some areas of policy where they would probably want us to go further, but they did not push any of those issues to a vote. Well, interestingly enough, so
would one of those be? I think they're pretty cross with you about the oil and gas thing, that you don't want to extend exploration in oil and gas, which they say will cost their members something like 30,000 jobs.
Well, we have a disagreement because we don't believe that we will be losing jobs in the oil and gas sector. We will have a strategy for the North Sea and a fair transition that actually creates many more good jobs, not just in Scotland, but across the rest of the country as well. So we have given assurances to not just trade unions, but workers in those industries, to people in Scotland in particular, where lots of these jobs are based, which with credible figures that have been backed by independent experts that say that our plans will create many more jobs than any that might be lost ultimately from the oil and gas industry.
I'm only reading this from what Unite's published, that they're saying that there's something like 35,000 jobs that could be assured, and they want Labour to specify that that's going to be the case. Is that in the... has Labour actually agreed that it's going to protect those jobs or not?
As we've said, workers in this industry, we are going to retain this industry for many more years to come. Oil and gas will continue to be a part of the picture for the UK, and we will have a fair and just transition. We know that we will create more jobs.
Yeah, that's not what they asked you. They asked you to keep the jobs,
No,
didn't
they recognise that actually change is coming. The issue is speed and transition, on which we were able to provide assurances on plans that have been backed by independent experts. We will create over 100,000 jobs as part of our plans. These are good quality jobs in the same sector for people to go into.
I'm sure that all of this was said to them, but it sounds to me, if I may say so, that they don't really have that much confidence in those assurances.
I think that's a matter for Unite and their own internal management of their union. But what I can tell you is there was a huge amount of...
But the point is, if you guys come into government, actually, that'll be the first thing that you're going to have to deal with, opposition from your own people.
Oh, well, look, we are focused on the general election, fighting for every vote all over the country with a clear plan and a clear choice for the British people. 5 more years of chaos with the Tories, or the chance to turn the page, stop that chaos and start to rebuild our country. That's what we're focused on.
The reason I'm asking this is that we see this morning that another big union leader, Gary Smith of the GMB, dismisses the change idea that's on your leader's rostrum as nothing more than, I'm quoting here, a snappy election slogan. They're not that enthusiastic about the programme. And this sounds to me as though what's emerging here is not so much the Labour movement's programme, but Keir Starmer's programme.
Well, I haven't seen those comments, but what I can tell you is that the GMB and others were in the room. We discussed every line of the manifesto. It is a lot more than a slogan. It is a serious plan for change in our country. It is a sort of plan that can kickstart a decade of national renewal.
Okay.
It's a sort of plan that helps us to start rebuilding our country with 6 clear first steps that a Labour government can take immediately if we win, with a longer-term plan for the sorts of reform and change that we need to see.
A bigger deal than the 6 points that you've put forward seems to be what you're not going to do, which is, according to reports this morning, you will not raise income tax, VAT or national insurance. Is that correct?
We won't be raising those taxes, no, that's true.
Well, see, this is very interesting, because the Greens say that you've got making all these promises. Of course, you're going to tell me that they're all funded and so on. But actually, the Greens leader said in the debate on Friday night, your claim to have changed Labour is true. You've changed into Conservatives. You are actually simply following the Tories' spending plans.
I mean, that's exactly the kind of stuff you'd expect from some of the smaller parties.
No, it's true. You are spending Tory spending. You are following Tory spending plans.
There are billions of pounds worth of difference between us and the Tory party, because we will make different decisions. For example, levying VAT on private school fees. We will get non-doms to pay their fair share. We'll make sure oil and gas giants pay their fair share with a proper windfall tax. That is a big difference between us and the Tory party, which will help us resource our public services.
It is chicken feed, isn't it? You dumped the big pledge you had, the 28 billion. Well, literally, you guys came in week after week and told me we're going to put 28 billion into a green prosperity plan until, I think, February, at which point the 28 billion was no longer public money.
Trevor,
you're going to get it off the private sector.
Look, Trevor, firstly, we're not going to make any unfunded spending commitments, and we are all living
you were making
in the
them like nobody's business last autumn.
We are now all living in the economic reality left by Liz Truss and the Tories when they crashed the economy, which is still having a huge impact on family finances all over the country. So our fundamental promise to the British people is we're not going to make promises we can't keep.
It's to be the same as the Conservatives.
We are not going to put your household finances at risk. And every single proposal that we have made is fully funded, fully costed. And that is different from the Conservatives, actually, because look at what they've started this campaign with. Firstly, telling lies about our proposals, but also scattergun, proposals put through the Tory desk barometer, anything and everything, all paid by the same pot of money. So there's only one party at this election that has credible, costed plans that will start making an immediate difference to the lives of British people all over the country. More doctors' appointments, more teachers and more police with Labour. That's what's on offer at this general election, and that is a game-changing change for people all over the country.
Well, the scale of it is what we're talking about. And let's take an example in your own field. You're going to have more doctors, and so on and so forth. You're also going to have more prisons in your first term to ease the pressure on jails, which everybody agrees, crumbling, overcrowded, violent. But you know what I'm going to do now? Let's take a look at the prison population, the trend. Last time we spoke, actually, we started to talk about this. That blue line at the right-hand side is the median trend. Actually, prison population could go as high as 114,000 during your term in office if you're elected. Now, you're going to put an extra, you said, 20,000 places.
We will deliver.
You're basically just about going to keep pace with the likely rise in the prison population. So actually, all that's happening is you're going to have a terrible prisoner state, only with more people in a terrible condition.
Well, that's not the full extent of our plans. We are going to deliver the full 20.
Yeah, but that's a basic point here.
Let me address that. We are going to deliver the full 20,000 places that this government actually promised. The money is there. They failed to get on with building. So the changes we make is from day one, a Labour government will deem prisons to be of national importance. It means that the planning decision is ultimately made by ministers rather than going through the usual local authority planning process. So we can move much faster than this government who've let themselves get bogged down by backbencher complaints and the planning process. So we can deliver the full 20,000. The second thing that we will also do, though, is focus on cutting reoffending. Because, Trevor, I think you know 80% of offenders are reoffenders. So if you sort out reoffending, you can help deal with the capacity crisis.
It's going to take you time to do that.
No, but there are changes that we can make. And, of course, it's going to be a long-term process because the government has lost control of the prisons.
To make a dent.
The government has lost control of the prisons system. It will take some time to put it right, but with a government that can get building quickly and a government that is focused on cutting reoffending, which is a strategy for cutting crime and keeping the public safe, as well as dealing with capacity issues, we can start to make a dent in this crisis.
All right, let's talk about something which doesn't involve spending money or not spending money. It's reported that you plan to put an age cap of 80 on the membership of that House of Lords if you become the government. I just wanted to ask you about this. Here are some of the people who would get the boot. Joan Bakewell, Melvyn Bragg, Ming Campbell, Ruth Deach, Alf Dubs, Brenda Hale, Michael Heseltine, Michael Howard, Neil Kinnock, Norman Tebbit, John Prescott, David Owen. Amongst people who wouldn't be allowed in, Margaret Hodge, Margaret Beckett, Bill Cash. It's a pretty classy bunch to throw on the scrap heap. Is Labour being a bit ageist here?
You will have to wait for our manifesto. I'm not going to unveil all of the things that are in the manifesto. There's some policies that we've already.
But would you support that? Would you support that?
I'm not going to comment on what might be unveiled in the manifesto. What I will say is that House of Lords reform really matters. We want to see ultimately a smaller second chamber. We want to see it more reflective of the regions and nations.
There will be some reform of the House of Lords.
There will be some reform of the House of Lords. You'll have to wait for the manifesto to see what it involves.
Well, all I can say is there's somebody who's a few years senior to you. You know, I'm a bit anxious about being thrown out next week. All right. Last point. In the debate this week, your leader said, in answer to a question, that if he had a loved one on a long waiting list for surgery, he would not use private healthcare. Now, according to a YouGov poll, after that, 72% of people who say they intend to vote Labour do not agree with him. Do you?
I do, but I also acknowledge that these are personal choices, and I'm not here to judge the personal choices that people make when they have a loved one who is unwell. It's all very much dependent on people's both individual finances, but also on their own personal values.
So are you saying you would have said the same thing as Keir Starmer?
Yes, I don't use private healthcare. I never have. And I can't see the circumstances in which I would. These are personal decisions. He was asked a personal question. He did the right thing.
It's a case of ideology over compassion, isn't it?
He answered it honestly. This is somebody who's got a long-term life experience, actually, with his mother's illness of the National Health Service. He believes in the principle of a public service, and you know that means you have a values-based view about a public service against private.
Shabana Mahmood, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.